A mom takes her daughter to the doctor. The doctor says, "Okay, what seems to be the problem?" The mother says, "It's my daughter Susie. She keeps getting these cravings. She's putting on weight and is sick most mornings." The doctor gives Susie a good examination and then turns to the mother and says, "Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but Susie is pregnant. About 4 months would be my guess." The mother says, "Pregnant? She can't be. She has never ever been left alone with a man. Have you, Susie?" Susie says, "No, Mom. I've never even kissed a man." The doctor walks over to the window and just stares out of it. A few moments later, the mother says, "Is there something wrong out there, doctor?" The doctor replies, "No, not really. It's just that the last time something like this happened, a star appeared in the east, and 3 wise men came over the hill. I'll be damned if I'm going to miss it this time." A husband and wife were driving from Key West to Boston, and after nearly 24 hours on the road, exhaustion set in. They decided to take a break and stopped at a nice hotel, planning to get a quick 4-hour rest before hitting the road again. But when they checked out, the desk clerk handed them a bill for $350. Shocked, the man demanded an explanation. "This is a nice hotel, but the rooms are nowhere near worth $350 for 4 hours. The clerk explained, "$350 is our standard rate." Frustrated, the man asked to speak to the manager. The manager arrived and explained, "Our rate includes access to our Olympic-sized pool and our top-notch conference center." "But we didn't use any of that," the man protested. "Well, they were here, and you could have," the manager replied. He continued, mentioning that the hotel hosts shows featuring top entertainers from New York, Hollywood, and Las Vegas. "We didn't see any shows," the man objected. "Still, they were available to you," the manager replied, unbothered. Despite the man's protests, the manager held firm. Finally, the man gave up, took out his checkbook, and wrote a check for $100, handing it to the manager. The manager looked at the check confused. "Sir, this is only for $100. "That's right," the man replied. "I charged you $250 for sleeping with my wife." The manager, taken aback, exclaimed, "But I didn't." The man smiled. "Well, she was here and you could have." Irende. An old Welsh farmer had a wife who nagged him unmercifully. From morning till night, and sometimes later, she was always complaining about something. The only time he got any relief was when he was out plowing with his old mule. He tried to plow a lot. One day, when he was out plowing, his wife brought him lunch in the field. He drove the old mule into the shade, sat down on a stump, and began to eat his lunch. Immediately, his wife began pestering him. Complain, nag, nag. It just went on and on. All of a sudden, the old mule lashed out with both hind feet, caught her smack in the back of the head, killed her dead on the spot. At the funeral several days later, the minister noticed something rather odd. When a woman mourner would approach the old farmer, he would listen for a minute, then nod his head in agreement. But when a man mourner approached him, he would listen for a minute, then shake his head in disagreement. This was so consistent, the minister decided to ask the old farmer about it. So after the funeral, the minister spoke to the old farmer and asked him why he nodded his head and agreed with the women, but always shook his head and disagreed with all the men. The old farmer said, "Well, the women would come up and say something about how nice my wife looked, or how pretty her dress was, so I'd nod my head in agreement." "And what about the men?" the minister asked. "They wanted to know if the mule was for sale." Three dots. Once upon a time, a farmer named Patrick lived quietly in the Irish countryside with his faithful dog as his only companion. One day the dog passed away, and feeling the loss deeply, Patrick decided to visit the parish priest. "Father," he said, "my dear dog has died. Would you be willing to say a mass for the poor creature? The priest shook his head, replying, I'm sorry, Patrick, but we don't hold services for animals here. However, there's a new congregation down the road. No telling what they might offer, but perhaps they'd consider something for your dog. Patrick nodded thoughtfully. All right, I'll try them, he said. Then, as he turned to go, he added, Do you think a €5,000 donation would be enough for the service? The priest's eyes widened. Good heavens, Patrick, why didn't you tell me your dog was Catholic? Nange. On the first day of training for parachute jumping, a lady listened intently to the instructor. He told them to start preparing for landing when they are at 300 feet. The lady asked, How am I supposed to know when I'm at 300 feet? That's a good question. When you get to 300 feet, you can recognize the faces of people on the ground. After pondering his answer, she asked, What happens if there's no one there I know? Punch. A wife had a splitting headache on Halloween night and told her husband to go to the party without her. Although he insisted on staying home, she encouraged him to go have fun, assuring him that she just needed some rest. So he grabbed his costume and headed to the party. A while later, the wife's headache disappeared, and feeling a bit mischievous, she decided to surprise him at the party. Since her husband didn't know what costume she'd wear, she figured she'd watch him from the shadows and see what he got up to without her around. When she arrived, she quickly spotted him, dancing wildly, flirting, and cozying up to every attractive woman on the dance floor. Chuckling to herself, she decided to join the fun. She sidled up to him, and without recognizing her, he was instantly captivated by her disguise. They danced, laughed, and eventually snuck out for a steamy session in the car. Just before midnight, she slipped away, went home, and was in bed by the time he returned. When he got in, she casually asked, So, did you have fun at the party? He sighed and replied, the usual. Didn't dance once, just ended up in the back room with Pete, Bill, and the guys playing poker. Feigning surprise, she said, Really? You must have looked ridiculous playing poker in that costume. He grinned and said, Oh, I wouldn't know. I gave my costume to your ex. Seemed like he had quite the night. Mr. Johnson's wife of 50 years had an idea. Honey, she said, why don't we take a cruise? Just the two of us. Like old times. A week at sea, wild love, no distractions. He smiled, thought it over, and agreed. He went straight to the pharmacy and bought a bottle of seasick pills and a tube of lubricant. The next day, his wife said, You know, why stop at a week? We could go for a whole month. Back to the pharmacy he went, this time for 12 bottles of seasick pills and another tube of lubricant. A few days later, she got dreamy-eyed and said, Darling, the kids are grown. We've got time. Why not cruise around the world? Mr. Johnson headed back once again, and this time he bought 200 bottles of seasick pills and a whole stack of lubricant. The pharmacist, now thoroughly confused, leaned over the counter and said, Mr. Johnson, I don't mean to pry, but if it makes you that sick, why the hell do you keep doing it? Sat Dashamlov, well, last week was my birthday. My wife didn't wish me a happy birthday. My parents forgot, and so did my kids. I went to work, and even my colleagues didn't wish me a happy birthday. As I entered my office, my secretary said, Happy birthday, boss. I felt so special. She asked me out for lunch. After lunch, she invited me to her apartment. We went there, and she said, Do you mind if I go into the bedroom for a minute? Okay, I said. She came out 5 minutes later with a birthday cake. My wife, my parents, my kids, my friends, and my colleagues all yelling, Surprise! While I was waiting on the sofa, naked. Yet a guy comes home from work, and he is quite upset. His wife looks worried and asks him what's wrong. He shakes his head and refuses to say anything. Later, during dinner, he's just pushing his food around on his plate and staring out the window. "Honey, what is it? I've never seen you like this before." The wife says, "It's nothing," he says. "I can't burden you with my problems. It wouldn't be fair." "Your problems," the wife says. "We are partners. We face everything together. Your problem is my problem. There is no I, just we. Now please tell me, what is it?" "Well," he says, looking up at her glumly, "we got our secretary pregnant, and now she's suing us for support." 9. Larry is 75 years old and has played golf every day since his retirement 15 years ago. One day, he arrives home looking downcast. "That's it," he tells his wife. "I'm giving up golf. My eyesight has become so bad that once I hit the ball, I can't see where it landed." His wife sympathizes with him and makes him a cup of tea. As they sit down, she suggests, "Why don't you take my brother with you next time?" "Oh, that's no good," Larry sighs. "Your brother is 85. He can't help." "He may be 85, says his wife, "but his eyesight is perfect." So, the next day, Larry heads off to the golf course with his brother-in-law. He tees up, takes a mighty swing, and squints down the fairway. He turns to his brother-in-law and asks, "Did you see where the ball went?" "Of course I did," answers his brother-in-law. "I have perfect eyesight." "Well, where did it go?" Larry asks. His brother-in-law replies, "I don't remember." But two Eskimos, a big one and a little one, go to their local Alaskan convent with a question. The big one nudges the little one and says, "Go ahead, knock on the door, knock on the door." The Mother Superior answers the door. Again, the big Eskimo nudges the little one and says, "Go ahead, ask her the question, ask her the question." The little Eskimo timidly says, "May we speak with the midget nun that lives here, please?" The Mother Superior answers, "There are no midget nuns living here." The big Eskimo starts nudging the little one again and says, "Go ahead, ask her the other question, ask her the other question." The little Eskimo asks in a quavering voice, "Well, are there any midget nuns in Alaska?" The Mother Superior responds uncertainly, "Why no, I don't believe so." With this, the big Eskimo falls down and rolls on the ground, clutching his belly as he laughs uncontrollably. "See," he says to the little Eskimo, "I told you that you shagged a penguin."